My handyman said something that stopped me cold. "Mrs. Margaret," he said, wiping his hands on a rag. "Didn't I already fix this same faucet last month?" He looked genuinely puzzled. "Someone called me out here on a Tuesday. I thought it was you." I stared at him. "I've been at my sister's in Phoenix since October. I didn't call anyone." He shifted his weight and looked away, like he regretted saying anything at all. That was the moment everything changed. "My name is Margaret. I'm 68 years old. And I've lived in the same house in Dayton, Ohio for 31 years. My husband, Robert, and I raised our son, Daniel, in that house. We planted the oak tree in the backyard, the year Daniel started kindergarten. We painted the kitchen yellow 3 times because Robert could never quite get the shade right. When Robert passed away 2.5 years ago from a sudden heart attack, I made the decision to stay. The house wasn't just walls and a roof to me. It was the last place where my life had felt whole. Daniel lives 40 minutes away in Columbus with his wife, Serena, and their 2 children. After Robert died, Daniel started calling more often. He came by on weekends sometimes, helped me with the gutters, sat with me at the kitchen table drinking coffee. I was grateful. Grief is a strange, heavy thing, and having my son nearby made it easier to carry. Serena was always polite, warm, even, in a careful way. She brought food when they visited and asked questions about my health with what seemed like genuine concern. I liked her. I trusted her. I had no reason not to. The handyman's name was Gary. He'd been fixing things around my house for 11 years. A quiet, dependable man who never overcharged and always showed up when he said he would. When he told me someone had called him to my house while I was in Phoenix, I felt something shift in my chest. Not panic, something quieter than that. A cold, settling clarity. "Do you remember who called?" I asked him. He hesitated. "It was a woman. Said she was your daughter-in-law. Said you'd asked her to handle it while you were away." I thanked him calmly, paid him for the faucet, and watched him drive away. Then I sat down at my kitchen table and did not move for a very long time. Serena had a key. Daniel had given her a copy 2 years ago, saying it made sense in case of an emergency. I had agreed. It made sense. That's what I'd told myself. But I had not asked Serena to call Gary. I had not asked Serena to come to my house for any reason while I was in Phoenix. And now I was wondering what else I had not asked her to do. I want to say that I confronted Daniel immediately. That I picked up the phone and demanded an explanation. But I'm 68. And I have learned one thing in 68 years that I did not know at 30 patients is not weakness. Moving carefully when something feels wrong is not cowardice. It is wisdom. So instead of calling Daniel, I called my attorney. Her name is Patricia, and we've known each other for 20 years. She was Robert's attorney first, and after he died, she helped me update my will and organize the estate. I trusted her completely. I told her what Gary had said, and the line went quiet for a moment before she spoke. "Margaret," she said carefully, "I need to tell you something. About 3 weeks ago, I received a phone call from someone identifying herself as your daughter-in-law. She said you were unwell and having trouble managing your affairs. She asked whether there was a process to update your power of attorney documentation." The room felt very still. I told her that any changes to your estate documents would require your direct involvement and your signature in my presence. Patricia continued. She thanked me and hung up. "I noted it in your file and meant to call you, but I wasn't certain it was anything more than a concerned family member overstepping slightly. I asked her to pull my file and check whether anything had been filed. Any documents changed. Any requests submitted in writing. She said she'd call me back within the hour. I sat in Robert's old chair by the window and looked out at the oak tree. Its leaves were coming back now, pale green and new. I thought about the will. I thought about the house. I thought about what Robert would say if he were sitting across from me. He'd say, "Maggie, don't get ahead of yourself. Find out what you know for certain before you decide what it means." So I started with what I knew for certain. Serena had called Gary. She had let herself into my house while I was away, and had him come to fix something, or had him come as a pretext to be there. She had called Patricia, asking about power of attorney. She had done both of these things without telling me, without asking me, without any acknowledgement that she had done them at all. Patricia called back 50 minutes later. Nothing had been formally filed. No documents had been changed. But she said something that made my blood go cold. The notary in our building mentioned that a woman came in 2 weeks ago, asking general questions about estate documents and witness requirements. The woman didn't give her name, but the notary said she was well dressed, probably mid-30s. And she was asking specifically about what could be signed without the primary account holder present in certain circumstances. Mid-30s. Well dressed. I thought of Serena standing in my kitchen doorway the previous Christmas, in her neat blazer, smiling at me over a glass of wine. "Patricia," I said, "I need you to help me think through this very carefully." We talked for another hour. By the end of the call, I had a plan. It was not a dramatic plan. It did not involve confrontations or accusations. It was the kind of plan that a 68-year-old retired schoolteacher comes up with when she is trying to understand the full shape of something before she responds to it. Careful. Methodical. Patient. The first step was the house. I called a security company the next morning. I told them I wanted indoor cameras installed, 2 in the main living area, 1 in the hallway near the home office, where I kept my filing cabinet, and 1 near the front door. The young man who came to install them was kind and efficient. He showed me how to access the footage from my phone. He asked if I had experienced any break-ins. "Not exactly," I said. I also quietly changed the locks. I told Daniel that the old lock had been sticking, and I'd had it replaced. Which was true. It had been sticking for months, and I'd been meaning to fix it. I did not tell him I had not given Serena a key to the new lock. I gave Daniel a new key. Just Daniel. The second step was the finances. I went through 6 months of bank statements. It took me 2 full afternoons. I was looking for anything unusual, withdrawals I didn't recognize, charges I couldn't account for. What I found was not dramatic. It was subtle. 3 ATM withdrawals over 4 months. Each for $300. Each on a Tuesday. I do not use ATMs. I have a debit card, and I use it at the register. I have not used an ATM in years. I called my bank and asked them to pull the location data on those withdrawals. The branch manager was helpful and apologetic. All 3 withdrawals had come from the same ATM, 15 minutes from my house. All 3 had been made while I was either at my Tuesday morning water aerobics class or, on one occasion, at my doctor's appointment. Someone had my debit card PIN. Or someone had a card linked to my account that I didn't know about. I called Patricia again. She told me to contact the bank's fraud department immediately and say nothing to Daniel or Serena until we understood more. I did exactly that. The fraud department opened an investigation. A representative called me back the next day and confirmed that a secondary card had been issued on my account 8 months ago. The mailing address on file for that card was my address. But I had never requested a secondary card. I had never authorized one. They canceled it immediately. They flagged the account. They told me to file a police report, which I did. Quietly. The following Thursday morning, the detective I spoke to was a woman named Officer Lena Torres. She was calm and direct, and she did not treat me like a confused old woman who had made a mistake. She listened to everything I said, asked careful questions, and told me that what I was describing unauthorized card issuance, attempts to gather information about power of attorney, a family member accessing my home without my knowledge, formed a pattern that warranted serious attention. Don't confront anyone yet, she told me. Let us help you build the picture first. 2 weeks passed. Daniel called twice, and I spoke with him normally. He mentioned that Serena had been very busy with work. I said that I understood. I asked about the grandchildren, and he told me funny stories about them. And I laughed in the right places. And when we hung up, I sat quietly for a moment, feeling the strange loneliness of knowing something about someone that they don't know you know. It was during the 3rd week that the camera caught something. I was at water aerobics on a Tuesday morning. I got home, made tea, and out of habit checked the camera feed on my phone before I even took off my coat. The front hallway camera showed activity at 9:47 that morning. Someone had opened the front door with a key, not by force, and walked into my house. It was Serena. She went directly to my home office. She was in there for 11 minutes. She opened the filing cabinet. I could see her from the hallway camera angle, and she went through it methodically, replacing folders carefully after she looked through them. She was wearing gloves. Then she left. She locked the door behind her. I sat at the kitchen table and watched the footage 3 times. I was not shaking. I was not crying. I felt something much simpler and much colder than either of those things. I felt certain. I called Officer Torres first. Then I called Patricia. Then I made myself a 2nd cup of tea and waited. Officer Torres came to my house that afternoon with a colleague. They viewed the footage. They collected the evidence. They had already, by that point, gathered enough from the fraud investigation to understand the broader picture. Serena had obtained a copy of my house key from a locksmith by presenting herself as my daughter with power of attorney, something she did not have several months before I'd changed the locks. The secondary bank card had been applied for online using my personal information. The ATM withdrawals totaled $900. It was not a small amount to lose. But it was also not, I knew, the real target. The real target was in that filing cabinet. My will. My property deed. The documentation of everything Robert and I had built together over 31 years. When Officer Torres explained what they'd found to me fully, she also told me something that made my chest ache in a way the bank fraud had not. Your son wasn't involved. Mrs. Margaret, she said. Based on everything we've reviewed, Daniel had no knowledge of any of this. I pressed my lips together and nodded. I had hoped that was true. I had not let myself be certain of it until she said so. The arrest happened on a Friday morning. I was not present. I had been advised not to be. Serena was charged with identity theft, unauthorized use of financial accounts, and criminal trespass. The DA's office also filed a charge related to the attempted fraudulent procurement of estate documents because it turned out Serena had gone further than asking questions at Patricia's office. She had approached a different notary across town and submitted paperwork attempting to authorize a change to my will, using a forged signature. That charge was the most serious one. Daniel called me that afternoon. He was devastated. The silence on the phone when I told him what I knew what had been happening in my house, in my finances. Behind both our backs was the hardest silence I have ever sat with. He is my son. He is Robert's son. He did not know. And yet his wife had used his key, his family connection, his mother's trust. Mom, he said finally, in a voice I hadn't heard from him since he was a child. I'm so sorry. I told him I knew he was. I told him that was not enough, and also that it was not nothing. I told him we would figure out what came next. But not right now. Right now, I needed him to understand what had happened fully. And I needed some time. He understood. He said he would give me whatever I needed. Serena's attorney attempted to negotiate a reduced charge based on the relatively small dollar amount of the fraud. The DA declined. The forged will documents elevated the case considerably. And Patricia made certain that every aspect of the attempted estate fraud was on record and fully documented. The case went to a plea agreement 4 months later. Serena pleaded guilty to 3 charges. She received 2 years probation, mandatory restitution of every dollar taken, community service, and a permanent notation on her record. She lost her position at the real estate firm where she'd worked for 6 years. Because the real estate license required a clean record, it was revoked. Patricia told me afterward, sitting in her office with the afternoon light coming through the blinds, that cases like mine were more common than people realized. That the targets were almost always people who were perceived as vulnerable, older, recently widowed, living alone, and that the people doing it almost always believed they would not be caught because they believed the target was too trusting or too confused to notice. They mistook your kindness for carelessness. Patricia said, I thought about that for a long time on the drive home. There is something I want to say. And I want to say it clearly. Because I think it is the most important part of what I learned from all of this. I am 68 years old. I live alone. I am avidov. In some people's eyes, that makes me a problem to be managed. A resource to be redirected. A signature waiting to be forged. Serena looked at me and saw someone who wouldn't check her bank statements. Wouldn't notice a camera. I wouldn't have the presence of mind to call a lawyer before making a scene. She was wrong about all of it. And I think about all the women and men my age who would have been wrong to doubt themselves. Who would have looked at their bank statement and thought, maybe I did take that money out. Maybe I'm misremembering. Who would have felt guilty for suspecting a daughter-in-law? Guilty for causing trouble. Guilty for taking up space with their concerns. Who would have convinced themselves that the feeling in their chest was paranoia? Not perception. It was not paranoia. It was perception. I had spent 31 years running a household, managing a family, teaching other people's children how to think clearly. I had not lost any of that when I turned 60. I had not lost it when Robert died. I was still here. I was still sharp. I was still watching. I changed my locks again after the case concluded. Just to feel clean about it. I updated my will with Patricia. I had a long, honest, painful conversation with Daniel. And then another one. And then another. Those conversations are still happening. They may happen for years. That is not a clean ending. But it is an honest one. My oak tree is fully leafed out now. I can see it from the kitchen window where I drink my coffee in the mornings. Robert planted it with me. It has outlasted a lot of things. That tree. I think I will too. If you are watching this, and you have a feeling you can't quite name a small, cold thing at the back of your mind that keeps saying something is not right, please listen to it. Call your attorney. Call your bank. Call a trusted friend. Write down the dates and the details. Change your locks if you need to. Put in a camera if you need to. Do not apologize for taking your own instincts seriously. You have earned the right to take up space. You have earned the right to protect what is yours. Do not let anyone convince you otherwise. Not even someone who sits at your kitchen table and smiles at you over a glass of wine. Not even family